addressing Pakistan's energy issues through IEP, the neglect of the non-commercial energy, the policymakers' preoccupation with commercial energy as a vehicle for GDP growth and the consequent neglect of the non-commercial energy have had a number of the serious repercussions. A clear examination of a supply consumption picture presented in the official energy yearbook and depicted in the first two pie charts reveals a critical flaw. It covers only commercial energy and completely misses or ignores non-commercial traditional sources. Basic reliable data on non-commercial energy is scarce, but this is primarily due to the low priority it is accorded. Our vicious cycle under which non-commercial energy sinks even further into oblivion in the eyes of the policymakers. However, if non-commercial energy is factored in using whatever rough data may be available, the supply matrix looks radically different, topping the supply list by the wide margin are biofuels, mainly fuel wood and other biomass, fueled by natural gas, oil, hydropower, and coal in that order. As a result, the consumption pattern also looks completely different. The principal consumer, again by a wide margin, is the household sector with 50% of the share. Around 85% of the household consumption is in the form of the biofuels, the bulk of which is food. There are three main reasons why the energy analysts and policymakers in many developing countries, including the Pakistan, tend to ignore non-commercial energy. The first reflects the policymakers' overwhelming concerns with economic growth. In this respect, the pervasive neglect of non-commercial energy seems understandable, even if not justifiable. Commercial energy is a primary driver of economic growth, and on the face of it deserves to be the focus of attention. This is particularly so when the policymakers are confronted with the urgent need to regenerate stagnant or declining growth rates, as are frequently the case in Pakistan. Yet there is a critical shortcoming in this system. While commercial energy does drive national growth, the contaminant neglect of the commercial non-commercial consumer contributes directly to poverty, which bogs down national output over the longer term. Some may argue that national growth eventually help alleviate the prosperity through a trickle-down effect, and early imperial data supported this assumption. Subsequent work, however, showed that the growth alone would not be sufficient to reduce poverty and that adequate distribution measures would also be needed. Pakistan's military ruler and the bureaucracy, being out of touch with the citizenry, worked on the earlier premises that growth alone would suffice. Later, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto ostensibly brought in the social safety net, but put in the mechanisms that were the domain to fail. The pendulum swings too far towards sham socialism and widespread nationalization, this uh, stifling private enterprise. The current working model for poverty alleviation supports economic growth with two important provisos. There must be adequate incentives to deploy the growth in the productive channels, and there must be appropriate social protection measures to equitably distribute health. Both these conditions, which require a longer term vision, are largely ignored. In Pakistan, immediate pressure seemed to drown out any serious long-term vision, let alone putting the vision into practice. Thus, the Pakistan continued to live from crisis to crisis. Moreover, between 2008 and 2011, a substantial part of the wealth was captured by the well-to-do, leaving the poor even poorer, with the pool of poverty expanding at the 10% a year. During 2011, over 5 million people were added to those living in abject poverty. The shortage of energy and disregarded for the poor contributed substantially to this decline. Perhaps more than simply a neglect of the poor is the uh, preoccupation of vested interests with the protecting their own turf. A factor clearly seen at both the micro and sector level. This has persisted throughout Pakistan's history. It is a continuation of the colonial legacy, when even vast development initiatives such as the Indus Basin irrigation system were put in place by the British as the mean of securing canonical rule rather than promoting the people's well-being. The prevailing regularity and the legal system ensured that the economic benefits would be challenged largely to the ruler and their proxies. Essentially, the only difference is a change of beneficiary from canonical rulers to the countries rich and powerful. Even today, the establishment continues to resist any changes in the legal system that would favor the needs of the common person despite strong pressure from both inside and outside Pakistan. In, in, inter, Interestingly, even at the time that the Zulfikar Ali Bhutto introduced the social protection measures ostensibly to protect the poor, the interests of the powerful remained well protected, and some would argue became even more intertwined than as today. In times of acute power or fuel shortage. The immediate measures taken favor that ruling elite. The focus on commercial energy is also apparent in the recent proposal to merge the Ministry of Petroleum with the Ministry of Water and Power. As stated before, this is the good first step in consolidating policy agency in the energy sector. It essentially addresses only commercial form of energy. Step to include non-commercial subsector within the same consolidated energy ministry would be an essential flow up. There are no indication that this is in the opening signaling once again the government's short-term concerns with surprising economic growth and once again neglecting the poor. This approach will lead to the same pitfalls and history will repeat itself. The second reason for the relative lack of attention to non-commercial energy is that data on it is scarce and often unreliable. Moreover, when integrated with commercial energy data, it is not only increase the emergence of error in the analysis but also devalues the worth of the commercial energy data, which is much more accurate. The margin of error and biases in the energy balance is further enhanced if the share of non-commercial energy in the total mix is significant, as is generally the case in many parts of the developing world. Finally, the primary energy equivalence of the non-commercial fuel is difficult to assess accurately because they are generally burn at much lower efficiencies, which vary considerably with the type and the quality of end user devices than commercial fuels. Their share is in useful energy consumption is therefore much lower. These reasons cogent as safer affair do not sufficient justify the omission, particularly when non-commercial energy constitution a significant portion of overall supply mix policy and investment properties priorities in the energy sector established without considering non-commercial energy and misleading. At the very least, IEP would highlight the shortcomings and signals the need to improve non-commercial energy data as well as enhance the efficiency of and use appliances. This prevailing situation also underscores scores the need of the policymakers to improve the quality and reliability of the Pakistan statistical base in order to manage the economy more efficiently. How serious is the neglect and what are the implications? About half of the energy used in Pakistan is in the form of the non-commercial energy. Its neglect therefore completely distorts the picture. Its inclusion will inevitably lead policymakers to consider the radical changes in uh, priorities at the supply end of the energy chain. The neglect of the non-commercial energy is manifest in poorly regulated and unenforced practice that the squander resources and the deplete the resource base, in particular forestry resources and harvest, while in the excess of the levels at which the resources remain sustainable. In fragile ecosystems, they can be permanently destroyed. The main driver seems to be increasing fuel wood needs the expansion of land for food and crash crop production and the notorious lumber industry. The social economic impact on the environment warranties separate study, but the result of the past policies or lack thereof are starkly visible today in the term of poverty and decimation of the fresh resources. As Qureshi dealing with the energy and the poverty reduction in Pakistan state the forestry policy in the Pakistan need to be more closely linked to the energy policy together with improved management of the First, resources which contribute a good deal to economy and livelihood of the poor. Even more seriously, an answer is needed to the following question: to what extent is the damage caused by the recent devastating flood in the Pakistan attributable to an act of the nature, and to what extent has it been exacerbated by the hand of man? The clearly visible denudation of forests over the year has caused a major displacement of the topsoil, increasing uh, siltation in the river and the canals that make up Pakistan's vast irrigation system. This in turn has impacted the system efficiency and placed undue burden on its maintenance. A comprehensive study needs to be launched to give an accurate answer to the question posed above. This is necessary for the sake of posterity to illustrate the impact of neglecting the long term and to stimulate a radical change in policies. It is hoped that the finding of proposed study will contribute towards strengthening Pakistan's ability to deal with natural disasters which are likely to be more frequent with future climatic changes under the global warming. Recent press report on efforts to restructure ministries also mentioned the possible creation of a separate ministry for irrigation, agriculture and hydropower. This would be a retrograde measure not only would it spill the commercial subsectors of the energy by separating out the hydropower, it would also keep the fuel, wood, and biomass subsectors sep- separate from the proposed Ministry of Energy as far as integrating the plans and policy of the energy sector is concerned. Separating hydropower would clearly undo the benefit of merging the two ministries again. Drawing on lessons from history, it is important to break the chain. One step forward, two step back. One step forward and two step back. The neglect of non-commercial energy also major implication for the utilization and of the energy chain in the number of the countries, including Pakistan. Analysts tend to define energy consumption in individual sector as the energy delivered to that sector. This approach does not take into account and use the efficiency of utilizing the delivering energy by emphasizing conservation as a means of effectively augmenting energy supplies. IEP draws the attention of the analyst to end use efficiency rather than supporting at the stage of delivered energy. Since the major consumer of energy in Pakistan, the household sectors rely mainly on non-commercial energy. The application of IEP will shift the emphasis of the analyst to this sector. This will inevitably lead to measures such as the introduction and separate the improved efficiency, cook stove, and replace high waste filtration devices. Many low-cost designs have been tested and tried successfully in countries facing similar challenges. Pakistan only need to select or and modify as needed those that are compatible with the social practices of the domestic consumers. Shifting the emphasis to the household sector does not imply that the industrial sector would or should be overlooked. On the contrary, it should mean at the very last the focus of the low cost and no cost initiative that have been found to be extremely effective the world over. The critical message here is that the appropriate balance need to be struck between the concentration of effort and financial resources available. IEP provides the mechanism to achieve this. Apart from a few notable expectations, the pattern of policy making in the Pakistan seems to be premised on short-term crisis response rather than on an informed long-term vision and determination to implement it, backed by unwavering political will in the energy sector. At least IEP could have reversed this shortcoming by establishing the optimum mix from primary supply source through the conversion technology to utilization patterns in the final analysis. Perhaps no country actually adheres to this optimum, which remain an unattainable ideal. This does not mean, however, that striving from the optimum should be abandoned. On the contrary, it should remain something to strive toward. In practice, there is much more to nation building than the economic alone. Departures from the optimum will be necessary. The cost of the each deviation must be known in order to make informed decisions, while bearing in mind that the degree of departure from the optimum can make the difference between the success and failure of energy policy. In the case of Pakistan, the optimum measured and determined, as does the cost of deviations. Pakistan is not alone in facing the types of issues raised here, although there are more pronounced than in many parts of the developing world. The the feedback received from developing countries during the preparation of the update of the World Bank Global Energy Strategy was very telling. In all meetings, client countries underscored the centrality of the non-commercial energy and stressed the importance of affordability, cooking and heating fuels, including the sustainable agroforestry, capacity building across all areas of energy sector, interlinkages to other sectors, transport, agriculture, forestry, urban water and social arrangement, gender, human rights, empowerment, consultation, ownership and participation. The IEP mechanism is eminently suited to quantify the cost penalty of